Welcome to Redditenderbender. We give Reddit stories their deserving endings because we hate being left hanging. So a few weeks ago, my wife tells me that we need to talk. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then tells me that she cheated and that it included texting and a kiss. Now, we have been together for 21 plus years and I could tell she was lying about something. I keep telling her she needs to be truthful if she has any hope of making it work. A few days go by and she's sticking to her story, but I'm not having it. Then I remember that she had just gotten a new phone. So I find the old phone in her purse and go through it to find that the affair was almost like a second relationship. At this point, she had begged me to go to counseling with her. I agreed to go as I knew that it would help me heal. At the second session, the counselor asked her to discuss how it all happened and when. Wife goes on to say that the texting started 4 years ago and then went to sexting 3 years ago and full contact 2 years ago. At this point, I'm lost. Our kids and family don't know, at least to our knowledge. All our kids are 18 plus, but our youngest is a senior in high school. I agreed that even if I asked for a divorce, that we wouldn't do anything till the youngest ships out to basic training. Edit. I have also retained a lawyer. Let's continue the story from where OP left it and find out what happens next. As the weeks went by, I was still struggling to come to terms with everything. Her betrayal hung over our home like a dark cloud, poisoning everything we had built over the past 2 decades. Every little thing, every look, every touch felt tainted. The pain was almost too much to bear. I often felt lost in a whirlwind of confusion and heartache. Therapy didn't do much to ease the pain that had taken up residence in my chest. My wife confessed to the affair, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. I could see the guilt in her eyes, but it was like she was holding back, maybe trying to protect me from more hurt. Our house, which used to be a happy place, turned into a war zone of emotions. The laughter that once filled the halls was replaced by awkward silence and the occasional sob. It was especially heartbreaking to see our youngest kid, a high school senior, struggling to cope. We tried to put on a brave face for them, but it was tough. The promise to wait until they left for basic training felt like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it gave us time to prepare for the inevitable, but on the other hand, it just prolonged the agony. I even talked to a lawyer, which was something I never thought I'd do in a million years. The future looked so bleak, and the thought of starting over after 21 years together felt impossible. My friends and family kept offering well-meaning advice, but it just made me feel worse, like I was losing everything. As the day for our kid to leave for basic training drew near, the tension in the house was thick. We were stuck in this weird in-between place, between the life we had built and the trust that had been shattered. Every day felt like a ticking time bomb, like we were waiting for some life-altering decision to be made. When the day finally came for our kid to leave, the house was eerily quiet. It was like the calm before the storm of emotions that were brewing inside me. I looked at her, the woman I'd been with for over 2 decades, and she felt like a stranger. The love we had shared felt like a distant memory replaced by the pain of betrayal. With a heavy heart and tears in my eyes, I finally said the words I'd been dreading. They hung in the air, filled with sorrow and regret, like ghosts of a past that could have been. As the weight of our decision settled in, I couldn't help but grieve the loss of our relationship, the dreams we had, and the memories that had been tainted by our choices. In the end, our love story, once built on commitment and devotion, turned into a tragic tale of deception and shattered trust. As I navigated the uncertain road ahead, it felt like a chapter of my life had closed for good, leaving me to pick up the pieces and find a way to heal from the wreckage of a love that had once been so strong. Now, let's find out what happens if OP makes a different kind of move. I was sitting in the counselor's office, my heart feeling like a lead weight. The past few weeks had been crazy. Ever since I found out about my wife's affair, our 21-year marriage was in shambles and I was feeling pretty hopeless. But I figured, what the heck, let's give counseling a shot. So, my wife started spilling the beans about her affair, just like the counselor asked. Her words hit me like a ton of bricks, and I couldn't even look her in the eye. 4 years of betrayal. I was stunned. I had a ton of questions, a boatload of anger, and I was all sorts of confused. But I realized that if we had any shot at fixing this mess, it had to start with honesty and understanding. I took a deep breath and finally spoke, my voice still shaky. I appreciate you sharing this crazy mess with me and the counselor, I said. I still can't make sense of it all, but we're here to figure things out. I don't want our family to fall apart, especially with our youngest heading off to basic training. My wife's eyes started to water, and for the first time in a long time, I saw a hint of remorse on her face. I'm so sorry for what I did, she whispered, her voice shaking. I never meant for any of this to happen, and I can't believe it went on for so long. The counselor kept us on track in the next few sessions, digging into the reasons behind my wife's affair and the mess our marriage was in. It was tough, with emotions running high, but it was the only way we could hope to fix things. Over time, we started talking more freely and honestly. We shared our insecurities, our mistakes, and our hopes for the future. It wasn't easy, but it felt like we were finally making some headway. Months went by, and our youngest finally shipped off to basic training. It was tough, but it also felt like a fresh start for us. With our counselor's help, we kept working on our marriage, trying to piece together the trust that had been broken. Slowly but surely, our love started to rekindle. We remembered why we fell in love in the first place and vowed to never let our relationship go downhill again. We laughed, cried, and celebrated our little wins along the way. As time went on, people around us started to notice the change. They saw us putting in the work to fix things, and they were supportive. Our kids, despite their initial shock and disappointment, were happy to see us working things out and finding happiness together again. So, against all odds, we managed to get through that tough time in our marriage. It wasn't easy, and there were definitely times when we doubted ourselves, but our love for each other was stronger than anything else. We learned that forgiveness and understanding can help build a stronger and happier relationship. Now, when I look at my wife, I can't help but smile. We've come a long way since that crazy conversation a few months ago, and I'm so glad we decided to work things out. Our love was put to the test and came out even stronger, and we're both committed to making the most of the good years ahead. Because we can, let's find out what happens if OP does something completely unexpected. I sat in the counselor's office, feeling like my heart was sinking. My wife had just confessed to years of betrayal, and I was struggling to process it all. The counseling sessions were a roller coaster of emotions. My wife was racked with guilt, and I was filled with anger and resentment. It felt like we were going through hell together. Strange things started happening during our counseling sessions. The lights would flicker, and a pigeon would fly into the room. It was like the universe was trying to tell us something. We confided in our friends, who told us about a secret society called the Relationship Renegades. They specialized in unconventional problem solving, and they offered to help us mend our relationship. We were desperate, so we agreed to let the Relationship Renegades take the lead. They organized a bizarre ceremony in the middle of a forest at midnight. We had to wear matching robes and recite strange incantations while holding hands. At the climax of the ceremony, a bright light illuminated the night sky. A spaceship descended from above, and a group of aliens stepped out. They claimed to be intergalactic marriage counselors, and they had come to help us. We were whisked away to the alien spaceship, where we underwent intensive couples therapy sessions. The aliens had unique perspectives on love and commitment, and they used their advanced technology to help us heal our relationship. After months of therapy, we finally returned to Earth, stronger and more connected than ever before. Our love had survived the test of time and space. Our family and friends were shocked by our story, but we were just grateful to have our love back. We faced the future together, ready for whatever challenges came our way. What would you have done in OP's shoes? Which ending was the best? Please tell me in the comments below. I never thought of myself as dumb or stupid before I got married 12 years ago, but my husband has a very strong reaction when I don't do things correctly and says hurtful things, so it's pretty ingrained in me that I am what he says I am. Tonight, I made a very stupid mistake. He has been on a business trip for the past 5 days, and I've been taking care of the kids and working in the meantime. Before bed, I was making sure to lock all the doors in order to be safe. We mostly only use the garage door to enter the house, and I don't think he has a key to the front door in his car. He was coming home from the airport, and I decided to go lay next to my son, who often wakes up scared if he's alone. Well, I didn't realize I had locked the garage door. My phone was on silent, and I fell asleep. I woke up to 18 missed calls and 16 really mean texts because he couldn't get in the house. I understand I made a huge mistake, and I feel so horrible. And if I could go back, I would have never locked that door. I would have stayed up and waited for him. Of course, I can't do any of that, but I can't get over the feeling of being just so stupid to make a mistake like that. I guess I don't know what I'm looking for in terms of advice, but I just have a lot of anxiety over him being so mad at me and me not knowing what to do to fix the situation. How would you deal with something like this? Let's continue the story from where OP left it and find out what happens next. As time went on after that incident, things got pretty tense at home. My husband was still pissed off. Even though I'd apologized sincerely and tried to make things right, every conversation felt forced, and his disappointment and frustration were like a dark cloud hanging over the house. I was constantly on edge around him, worried that one wrong move would set him off. His words, the way he made me feel like I was incompetent and stupid, were like a weight on my chest. Our relationship used to be so loving and supportive, but now it felt like a distant memory, buried under all this pain and anger. That incident was a turning point. It cracked our relationship wide open, and the emotional abuse just kept getting worse. It was like my mistake gave him permission to treat me even worse. Weeks went by, and I withdrew into myself more and more, feeling worse with each nasty comment he made. I longed for the days when I felt like I could take on the world, but those memories felt like they belonged to someone else. I became a shadow of my former self, constantly seeking his approval and validation, like I needed him to tell me that I was worth something. I was desperate to prove that I was more than just a collection of mistakes. I tried everything I could to fix our relationship, but nothing worked. The sadness inside me just kept getting deeper and deeper. I found some comfort in the quiet moments when I could think about the life we used to have before everything went wrong. But then one night, his anger reached a new level and something inside me snapped. I knew I couldn't go on like this anymore. It was a tough call, but I had to make it for myself. The sad truth was that my mistake wasn't just about forgetting to lock the door that night. My real mistake was letting his words get to me and make me feel like I wasn't worth anything. Our story ended in a mess, a tragedy of lost love and emotional abuse. I walked away with a lot of pain and a determination to rebuild myself. I wanted to rediscover the person I used to be and never let anyone else's opinion of me define my worth again. Now, let's find out what happens if OP decides to make a different decision. I've had enough of his put-downs and criticisms over the past 12 years of marriage. But tonight, as I lay there listening to his angry voicemails and reading his nasty texts, I had had enough. I wasn't going to let him make me feel this way anymore. It was time for me to fight back. I got out of bed, my heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. I knew what I had to do. I dialed his number and waited for him to answer. "What?" His voice was still filled with anger. I took a deep breath and said, "I'm done." "Done with what?" he asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Done with you," I said. "I'm not putting up with your abuse anymore." "You're crazy," he said. "You can't leave me." "Watch me," I said, and hung up the phone. I stood there for a moment, my heart still racing. I had done it. I had finally stood up to him. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to make a change. I took a deep breath and walked out of the bedroom, ready to start a new chapter in my life. Let's explore another turn this story could have taken. I dialed his number and waited for him to answer. "Hey, babe," I said, my voice shaking a little. "I'm so sorry about earlier. I can't believe I locked the garage door. But you know, it's weird. I thought you had a key to the front door in your car. I could have sworn you mentioned it once." There was a moment of silence on the other end. I could hear him rustling around, probably checking his car keys. I held my breath. "You know what? I do have the key to the front door," he finally admitted. "I just forgot about it in all the chaos." I couldn't help but chuckle. Yeah, it happens to the best of us. There was an awkward silence before he said, "I guess I overreacted. I should have tried the front door. I'm sorry for all those texts." "It's okay," I said. "I understand." We talked for a few more minutes and then he hung up. I sighed in relief. I was glad that we had been able to clear the air. "It's cool," I said, trying not to smile too hard. "We all make mistakes. Just don't call me stupid again." We talked for a while longer, and I made sure to stand my ground. I told him that I had been working hard while he was away, and that I deserved to be treated with respect. He eventually apologized and said that he would try to be more mindful of his words in the future. I was glad that we had been able to have a productive conversation, and I felt a sense of satisfaction knowing that I had stood up for myself. He eventually apologized for calling me stupid and thanked me for managing everything on my own while he was away. I was glad that he had finally seen the error of his ways, but I also knew that I couldn't let his words define me. From that day forward, I made sure to stand up for myself and not let anyone talk to me that way. I learned that sometimes it takes a situation like this to make you realize that you're not the one in the wrong. I wasn't dumb or stupid, and I didn't deserve to be treated that way. My husband needed to learn a lesson in humility and empathy, and I was determined to make sure that he did. Because we can, let's find out what happens if OP does something completely unexpected. I lay there, feeling like my heart was going to sink through my chest. I couldn't stop thinking about my husband's words and how they had made me feel like I was worthless. I knew I had messed up, but his hurtful messages just made me feel like I couldn't do anything right. I wanted to curl up into a ball and disappear. I felt like a failure, and I didn't know how I was going to face him again. My son was sleeping soundly next to me, completely unaware of the turmoil in my mind. I got up and went to check on him, and in the soft glow of his nightlight, I was struck by how much I loved him. He was my everything, and I would do anything for him. Looking at him, I realized that I needed to show myself the same love and care that I showed him. I was worthy of love and happiness, just like he was. I decided to start by taking care of myself. I went to bed earlier, ate healthier, and started exercising. I also made time for things that I enjoyed, like reading and spending time with friends. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. I started to feel better about myself, and my relationship with my son improved. I was finally able to show him the love and care that he deserved, and I was grateful for that. Let's find out what could have happened in another version of the story's conclusion. I took a deep breath and texted my husband, "Hey babe, I'm so sorry about locking the garage door. I fell asleep next to our son, and my phone was on silent. I didn't mean to inconvenience you, and I get why you were frustrated. I love you, and I'll make it up to you. I knew that he would be understanding, but I still felt bad for causing him trouble. I was glad that I could approach him with love and understanding instead of getting defensive or shrinking away. I hit send, feeling a mixture of relief and nerves. The minutes dragged on like hours before my phone buzzed with a new message. It was my husband, and this time, the tone was softer. I appreciate your apology. I think I overreacted, and I'm sorry for that. Let's talk when I get home. I felt the tension start to ease as I waited for him to return. When he walked in the door, his face was a mix of relief and regret. We sat down, both willing to put our egos aside and have a real conversation. We talked for hours, hashing out everything that had been bothering us. We apologized for the hurtful things we'd said, and we talked about how we wanted things to be different. We realized that we needed to communicate better, be more patient with each other, and support each other's growth. In the days that followed, we worked hard to put our words into action. We went to couples counseling, and we learned how to communicate more effectively and resolve conflict in a healthy way. We also made a conscious effort to be more supportive of each other, and we vowed to lift each other up rather than tear each other down. As weeks turned into months, our love grew stronger. We realized that love wasn't about being perfect. It was about understanding and forgiving each other. Our kids watched us heal, and they learned how important empathy and compassion are in relationships. Years later, on our 15th anniversary, we looked back on that night as a turning point. It was when we realized that love could conquer not just our mistakes, but also our insecurities. Together, we rewrote our story from one of pain and doubt to a tale of love, resilience, and the happily ever after we both deserve. What would you have done in OP's shoes? Which ending was the best? Tell me in the comments below. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because you won't want to miss a single captivating story. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.